Welcome everyone today for today's webinar. So let's just wait a few minutes to start the webinar, see if somebody else joins, and then we'll move ahead and start with the webinar today with Anna and Beyond.
Hi everyone, welcome.
All right, welcome to today's webinar. So we have today Anna from Beyond helping us to see the new strategies for the market and how it changed everything since COVID and the pandemic. It's already been past almost 2 years, so we're gonna give you a big insight. So today, for introduction, so as you mentioned, will be me. I'm John. I've been with Hostify already for 2 years. I'm leading the sales team and the marketing. And today with us, we have Anna. Welcome, Anna.
Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So Anna is the customer manager for any client in Beyond. So she's always helping anyone and helping improve their accounts. So for today's agenda, we'll start already, as we mentioned, with introductions already, as we did. Why Hostify, and we'll speak a bit about the market, all the supply, how much it has grown, and a bit how Hostify is helping with the features and the tools that we provide to our clients and the property managers. Then we'll move to why Beyond, of course. They will provide some slides and great data and insights from the markets, especially the ones I think, correct me if I'm wrong, from Europe, from UK and from Spain, the difference that what is been happening. And then a bit of better together, of course, why the combination of both systems and both softwares, how we will help to improve not just the revenue, but as well the guest experience. And finally, as we mentioned at the beginning of the call, we'll finalize with some Q&A. But again, if during the call you would like to stop us or pop up any kind of message in our chat, we'll be happy to stop and respond any question. All right. So let's move forward. So as we mentioned already, Hostify is the all-in-one solution for PMS and for the short-term rentals, not just managers as well owners, and how we help to automate all the processes and functionalities and tasks for daily operations. Yeah. So just a bit of insight from Hostify, how much we have grown since 2019. We provided already more than 15 million bookings to all our property managers and clients. We have over 34,000 listings spread it around more than 46 countries in the different 5 continents. So we are quite global, and we try to expand more and keep growing along with our clients. So as we mentioned, we're going to focus on the market, how it changed since the COVID, and how is the new era of the vacational rentals, and of course, how much it has been digitalized and how the property managers have new needs, not just the property managers, but also the guests staying on their properties, how they are getting more picky and more demanding. So the first slide that we have is just a great insight on the market, and especially mentioned here the American market, how North America and the Latin America has grown since COVID time, how many apartments and new companies they are growing and they are appearing, and we can see an amazing increase in Latin America with almost 8% growth since we compare with COVID time. Versus what it happened in Europe, it stayed more or less the same, but we can see how it hit it really, really badly, and we can see still some markets that they are not really fully recovered in Asia and Australia and New Zealand. They are the ones that they've been suffering, and they're still having big restrictions there, and it looks like the recovery is taking a bit longer. So really interesting how much the supply has grown in America, and some insight on not just the continent, but also in some countries. And it's really incredible how Brazil or Mexico have grown more than 20%. And then comparing some of the markets as well, that they've been there longer, like Spain or Italy, that they started on this vacational rental industry like almost 20 years ago, and how these new markets they are growing, that they are now starting learning about all the softwares and everything that we are providing, and how the vacational rental can be that professionalized and really close to the hotels, no? And then we have in the other side, you can see how much it has decreased in India, in Vietnam, in Japan, even in Philippines, quite a touristic places that they are now suffering quite a bit still from the COVID. And then not just the growth, We can see as well the tendency how it changed. So we don't have just property managers with one single or homeowners. We are having more clients that they are now growing and growing their portfolio, and of course this growth, it means that they have more needs. So they have needs like Beyond or Hostify to handle the portfolio, to synchronize all the calendars, to synchronize all the pricing, to learn more about the markets, to position each property, since they don't have that many time to focus only on one property. But as we can see, how much is growing for clients with more than 20 properties, 50 properties, and the big growth since one property up to 6 to 10 properties that they have, no? And then just a few mentions that we are speaking all about the digitalization and some data that is being provided from our partners and colleagues from Operto, and how they surveyed, and how all the property managers, they are now looking for automations, how they are being helping. So as you can see, 85.9% of the vocational rentals, now they're saying that the priority is to automate all the processes, so they don't lose the time, focusing on daily operations, but more on the growth or making more revenue. No, also how much they have increased, not just to rely on the OTAs, but also as well to increase the direct bookings and try to make their brand and try to put the small touch that they have as a property manager, and the difference that they make it from platforms that they are coming. No, and of course, how much are they planning to invest in all these different tools, such as PMS, dynamic tools, or any other softwares that they are helping them, the property managers, to help them on the day to day. And then how Hostify comes here, and this is the 3 points or the 3 brand standards that we usually have on work smarter. Of course, if we work smarter, as we mentioned, with all the automations and all the processes established, we will get more bookings, and that will make more profit. It will make it easier to grow. And then with the premium support. So this is one of the standards that we always have, to be along with the client, to don't just give them the PMS and then just let them there, but also help them with any inquiry, or how to help or set up any kind of automation. And of course, everything that is included in Hostify, and which tools do we have in order to provide all these services. So channel management, of course, to connect with all the different OTAs, the main ones, Booking, Expedia, VRBO, Airbnb. We have all unified communications in order to contact any client, independently with the platform that they are coming. Setting up all the automations, you name it, either messaging for the cleaning task, for the housekeeping team, for the payment, for processing, for the pricing rules that they are coming from Beyond, and the different other softwares that we have to then synchronize with the different platforms. And finally, we provide as well, as we were mentioning, the importance of having a brand and having a booking engine or a website. We provide this service as well to our clients, so they can have as well the direct reservations. And then I'm just passing over to Anna.
Thank you. No, yeah, indeed. Like, I wanted to come back to it's good to what I do Beyond, as a sort of short introduction for those that join a little bit later. But I'm customer success manager here at Beyond. So that means I'm mostly focusing on teaching as well partners how to use the tool. That's why sometimes I can become very in detail what we're going to see next. I just wanted to give you a short warning. But yeah, so if we go to the next slide, we would see a little bit how Beyond was actually built. Ideally, initially Beyond was founded actually in 2013. And we give an interest of our property managers and the property owners. Our goal is actually to increase revenue. So we make sure to analyze all data we have, everything that is available, to try to always suggest the best price possible to continue increase revenue, meaning we will make more money, hopefully with less cost. And that's how with this messaging we are servicing currently worldwide around 340,000 listings in more than 7,000 cities, and now by booking volumes around 3.5 billion in euros, which is incredibly high for what we are. It's a small team of really dedicated people, and I think that's how we work so well with Hostify. We are very data driven. We are eager to like work smart and like focus on those bookings. So we sharing those values, we continue analyzing data and making this a very seamless experience for our property managers and property owners that want to switch to dynamic pricing. So as an introduction, I'm going to share next some data. So that's kind of like what I wanted to offer for you guys. So basically bringing to surface all of this data, everything that we are analyzing during COVID and post-COVID. And in this first slide, to try to understand what we're looking at before we go into detail, I want to take a little bit more time. So we see the revenue per available night in Spain in 2019. What is the revenue per available night? So we call it, for like a sweet name, RevPAN. RevPAN is excluding all the dates we have in our calendar that we actually cannot rent. Imagine a highly seasonal property, or imagine a property that is half of the high season booked by the owner. We know we cannot rent it, so it's unfair to compare the metrics of this listing with the metrics of the market. So a way of excluding those properties and having a real insights into what is like the expected revenue, what are we comparing to? We created this. This is the term we are using to analyze the revenue income, or like trying to see like how this revenue is trending. In this case, in Spain, right? So the first part of the graph would be the first week in January, and then in the last week of December. So we have an entire year of revenue in 2019, average for Spain, and then we quickly identify the first peak, which is Eastern, second peak, which is early May holiday, I believe. And then we identify as well that there is a mountain kind of in the middle of the graph, which is the summer destination. So it makes us understand how the market behaved pre-pandemic. So we see most of the reservations, most of our revenue, actually, not the reservations, but the revenue coming in during the summer months, those that are, matching with the school holidays and all the holidays that parents take. Kind of like in Spain, it's very normal to have like help time or like shorter working hours during the summer, so that you can be with your family as well if you have kids at school. So we see how this converts into more holidays. In the next slide, we will see 2020 added. And we will see what happened when all of a sudden COVID hit. And there were very strict restrictions around what we could do in Spain. I don't know if some here in Spain as well, and they can put it on the chat, but there was a lockdown. So the revenue per available night dropped drastically. What is interesting is that right after this first half that we just marked on a square, it started picking up. Of course, it was never as high as it was previous year, but we see the intention of the market to start booking. So this translated to more reservations, but for still very cheap prices, because there was a lot of supply waiting to be filled, and we didn't have those early reservations to book the calendar. If we click next, we will see as well what happened in 2021. So our trends now in yellow, you can see how it catch up. And even like before the summer, like April, May, we see that the yellow line catch up at some points with the 2019 kind of expectations. So at some periods of time, we were getting the same amount of we were able to sell for the same revenue as in 2019. And for other periods of time, we were still very behind the market, due of course to changes in the different markets. Please take into account that this is analyzing Spain as a whole, but we know that region to region is also very different. But we see that we catch up a little bit with that drop that we had prior year, where we dropped 63% on revenue, and now we catch up with 48 up. So trends changing week over week. And last but not least, I want to highlight that the yellow line, I don't know if you noticed, in New Year's is higher than any historical data. So out of the blue, there was at the end of the year 2021, some weeks where we could price much, much higher than any historical data before, even during pandemic times. So this shows already how dynamic the market is and how unpredictable it was for property managers or property owners to know what's the rate when we see that week over week things can change so drastically. If we move to the next slide, we will see that the UK has different behavior. So UK, this is pre-pandemic, doesn't look like the graph we just saw before for Spain. It has a lot of spikes. UK market is very accustomed to have short breaks, so shorter stays, not booking an entire holiday period, but more like city escapes or a weekend in Scotland. So we see a lot of those, and we see that we start the year, well, after New Year's, they start the year very low, and then it goes up, up, up until past August, and then after September it slowly starts decreasing, and we end the year in December with lower occupancy. So it looks all like a mountain, but of course with a lot of spikes on it, depending on weekends. So this market behaves completely different. If we see what happened when COVID hits in the next slide, we see that they have a very similar trend, where the first the first moments when that they also had a lockdown, people could not travel. We see that those metrics down there, it looked like the revenue per available night also dropped very drastically. It was difficult to sell and it was difficult to fill. What it was interesting is that right after this period of lockdown, as soon as the restrictions were a little bit lighter, the numbers increased incredibly. So you see that there's no longer a spike. It just looks like a huge mountain that holds high on 150, I believe, for a period of time until the end of the summer, and only past the summer starts decreasing. Not only people were willing to pay more and were willing to travel because they wanted to move locally since they could not travel abroad, but they were also not longer looking for short stays. They were looking for holidays. They were booking an entire week. So it changed also the volumes, it changed the pattern of reservations and the length of stay. So how do we know in this case, a market that has been very based on weekend trips, how to price an entire week at the end of like a period where we have been in absolute lockdown? It is quite a drastic situation. If we go to the next slide, we see what happened the next year, which is something that no one expected. And it's like an insane amount of like the increase, that this difference year over year. It was unexpectedly high for 2021. The summer 2021, I had customers telling me that they were uncomfortable for like how high they could be pricing their properties. Like basically you could rent everything. I have a customer that told me that she could probably rent her garage by now. Everything was very occupied. There was a lot of demand willing to pay for those stays. And therefore, the market was also increasing very, very strongly. What we see now, if we look into the future, is a little bit different. So now that 2021 is over, we are slowly trending to pre-pandemic levels. What's going to happen with the UK? If we go to the next slide, we see that the market is following trends similar to 2021, but at some points actually lower. So there is a 19% decrease for the summer that we were not necessarily all customers were already very accustomed to have great summers, and now it's like, okay, we are pacing 19% lower in a weekend. What's going on? So again, the guest booking patterns are changing. People are accustomed to pay more, so the ADRs, the average daily rates that we are seeing at Beyond, are still high, but it's true that the reservation volumes have been decreasing week after week. So people, and the weekend windows are also being shorter. That means people are kind of waiting. They're booking very last minute or waiting to see if they could take different holidays. So probably they already want to travel abroad as well. And we see that transforming into less reservations. Those that are booking are still booking for very high prices. It is an interesting behavior. And of course, we don't have a lot of historical data on how short-term rentals have recovered from a pandemic such as ours, like the last COVID-19. That this is something that we are tracking day after day, and that we will and continue sharing with our customers in order to make smart decisions around their strategies with prices. If we check into Spain again, if we look into future revenue per available night, so if we look into the future, what's going on, we see that for I believe, I'm trying to see it now, it's very small, the 8th of the 8th. So this is August. For the first week of August, we have an increase in the revenue we can expect from last year to this year by 342%, which is, again, an unprecedented change. I know last summer wasn't really representative for what we expect in Spain, but it looks like indeed the tourism is back in Spain, and it is now time to increase prices because we are getting booked and things are moving, like people are willing to pay these extra prices, these ADRs for like their holidays in my case it's because I'm based in Spain right now in this country, right? That was kind of it, a very, very quick summary. I know like this is very generic, but if you have questions, feel always free to reach out to me, if not during this webinar after. I hope I can answer this question, or I did answer this question already, like why dynamic pricing? It is a very unstable market. So we will be looking at how the market is behaving, and we will be adjusting factors like seasonality, demand, day of the week, depending on your market. We saw that day of the week, for example, in Spain and the UK was very different. We see the demand sometimes change week after week. We understand that seasonality has been traditionally like Easter and summer, that sometimes New Year's can surprise us. So we will continue making sure that those price factors are adjusted automatically for you. And although this is just an image, you will have kind of a calendar in Beyond that will push this information into your Hostify account, updating the rates nightly. The base price is a key concept for us as a starting point to identify what's the value of the property. And this is also the one that we will be reviewing most. Well, I review most with my clients when we have our monthly calls to make sure that it's always matching what we are seeing on the market. How it traditionally was done. So the prices, how they look like in the past, we see it in the next slide. You see that normally we had like low season, medium season, high season pricing. Then we had an event factor on top. But those were things that were factors that you kind of decided at the beginning of the year. And then you adjusted if you had the time and the bandwidth to what you were seeing, like how fast you were booking. But sometimes it would be like, oh, was I too slow changing those prices? Why am I now 100% occupied? Maybe I should have booked a little bit more expensive. So that's what we will take over for you. And if you compare the pricing traditionally with how it would look like in Beyond, you will see that for periods of time, your prices will go a little bit under what's expected, but then you will still have those spikes higher up, especially during holiday periods. We, as Beyond, what we discover in this last 10 years of experience in the industry is that it's booking about like the trick to revenue is booking at the right timing for the right price. So we're going to be targeting those customers when we know that your booking window is ideal for those that are willing to pay a little bit extra. So we analyze as well how fast or how slow each of the listings are going to be booking, and we're going to be making sure to capture these extra ADRs on the right timing. So this is an example only, but it could be a good guidance on like how the prices will change if you decide to try dynamic pricing. And I believe that was it for now. But of course, like we have plenty of time for questions. So if you want to ask something, feel free to just add it in the chat so that we can start discussing it.
Sure. So we have already the first one from Maria. Let me stop sharing one second my screen. All right. Do you both work in all countries? Yes. I guess I'm answering for both of us. We don't have a focus in any market. We work globally, and we can help any market. And as you can see, all the insights from Anna, they provide an amazing data from any country or any market. Yeah. Another question for you, Anna. Where does Beyond get this market data from?
Yeah, this is a great question. And in fact, it links a little bit with the previous one as well. We have a combination, like we launch markets, and that's kind of like great because we have, like I'm focused mostly in EMEA, so Europe, Middle East, and Africa. But we have most of Asia as well launched. We have Latin America launched. So when we launch those markets, what we do is do an analysis of the markets. We do as well public scraping from Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, so all of the major platforms to understand how the occupancy is trending. So how many of those nights that were available at some point all of a sudden become unavailable and on which prices. It is a lot of data that we have to look into, but it's a combination of both machine and the human touch. Like we have a team of revenue managers analyzing the data.
Amazing. We have another question. Does Hostify have invoicing automation tools for customers? Yes, we have an amazing invoicing tool, not just for providing invoices for your clients, but also to upload any contracts that you have with your owners, to set up your management fees, to set up your expenses, and to finally provide not just a P&L, but also to provide a final owner statement to your owners and provide real data from the owners portal so they can access and check how are they performing their properties. Yeah. And actually, since we have a bit more time, I would like to ask Anna, since we have her here, how you see now, like the clients booking last minute, like in a more shorter window, or do you think like it's becoming again after COVID passed it? We get again bookings with more time, or it got shorter after COVID?
It's changing a lot depending on the market. We are analyzing not only based on country, but also like market type. So what we're seeing, for example, is that cities are picking up very strong. So cities were the ones that suffered the most during COVID. And now all of a sudden we see that people are booking again, like an escape to London or Edinburgh. Like Edinburgh is booking extremely fast. So this is really nice to see. And we short booking windows, but also for specific dates. Like people are not afraid to make plans, which is good because you see that they're gaining trust again in the market. So there's a combination of everything. Of course, we know that islands and coastal areas are booking with larger booking windows because they also require sometimes like booking a plane ticket. So to be able to travel to a place, people get organized. And then, of course, it depends as well on the bedroom size. We see that larger listings get booked far in advance, while studios or one bedrooms apartments are still getting booked very well on short terms, like very short booking windows. So sorry I was so vague, but
No,
what
no,
I'm trying
no.
to say is like there are many
Yeah, of
factors.
course.
Yeah.
Now many factors is changing and the market keeps
Yeah.
evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just gonna. Okay, we have another question. You are two different softwares, so how does the billing work? Are the two softwares traced separately, or are they client and joint points? Yeah.
I can take
So
that
of
one.
course, as we are separate, not just softwares, separate companies. Of course, we will invoice differently. So, Anna and their team from
Yeah,
Beyond.
I can explain a little bit about the billing as well by Beyond. So what we do is like the integration. Well, normally it's initiated like through Hostify into Beyond. You can open an account with us. And what is included in the billing is a 1%. That's the fee for the service. And we have like both the business intelligence tool and the pricing tool included in that 1%. And that 1% of the booking will be invoiced at the end of each cycle, so a month after normally. And that's included in a bill that we send automatically to the partner. So it's separate from Hostify in this case.
Yeah. The same from us, it can be the only difference is we can have fixed amount as well, not just the commission. And just to mention as well, we have a free trial for 2 weeks, and I think Beyond they have 1 month free trial as well.
Thanks. Yeah, indeed. We have the first month is for free, so you get used to the tool, of course. And not it's not auto renewed, so anytime you can just try it out for a month and then drop if it's not something you're so interested in, or yeah.
Amazing. And just that we share finally again the thank you note. So just you have all the information. Feel free to reach us, either me or Anna. Have a look on our website for any questions, or if you would like to book a demo. We have another, in case of doubt, how do I ask Hostify or Beyond? So yeah, we just responding now the question. We have all our social media as well. And again, as we mentioned, our marketing team will be sharing not just with the clients, but also with Beyond, and then Beyond can share it as well with anyone that would be interested with all the really great data that Anna and the Hostify team shared today. Yeah. And that's pretty much it. Unless Anna has anything else to share.
No, it was great. Great doing this together. And like I said, because this is like an integration between the two of us, we are partners in this, partners in crime. That any question, like we are happy to answer Hostify or Beyond related. Yes, you can always reach to either or, and then we will both reply with as much information as we have.
Indeed. All right, Anna, thank you very much for joining us today, and hope to keep growing together.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and talk to you soon.